Hey everyone, and welcome, undergraduate literature students. You are tuning in to an explainer presented by English Lit on YouTube. Think of me as your friendly tutor, here to guide you through some of the absolute most fascinating, yet notoriously dense concepts in critical theory. Today, we're going to introduce the groundbreaking worlds of structuralism and semiotics. And guess what? We're going to do it completely without the confusing jargon. We are going to uncover the hidden rules that shape literally everything around us, from the clothes you decided to put on today to the classic novels you're reading for class.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break down semiotics into 4 clear, logical steps. First, the hidden rules of daily life. Second, mapping the language system. Third, the illusion of choice. And finally, decoding the literature system.
All right, starting right off with step 1, the hidden rules of daily life.
I want you to think of this first section as your own personal matrix awakening. Let's ground this super abstract academic theory in an immediate, everyday reality. I have a question for you. Why don't sneakers go with a tuxedo? I mean, really think about it for a second. It's just fabric and rubber, right? There's absolutely no law of physics preventing you from putting them on your body at the exact same time. And yet, if you saw someone wearing dirty gym shoes with a crisp, formal tuxedo at a wedding, you'd instantly know that something was just wrong. But who actually decided it was wrong?
Well, that immediate sense of something being wrong happens because you are unconsciously obeying what structuralists call the fashion system. As members of a society, we just inherently know which items of clothing, which textures, and which colors belong together. You know for a fact that a formal top hat doesn't work with a pair of casual jeans, or that pairing red shoes with an orange skirt and a purple blouse is a massive color clash. Now, very few of us could sit down and write out a complete, exhaustive rulebook of dress codes, but semioticians point out that this list absolutely exists in our heads. And it's not just fashion, either. It applies to our daily food choices, too, the lexicon of food. It's the exact reason you know cereal is a breakfast food and you don't eat a slice of chocolate cake as your main course for dinner. We are constantly, unconsciously navigating this massive web of interlocking cultural systems.
That brings us to Section 2, Mapping the Language System. Now that we've seen how everyday social codes totally govern our habits, let's transition to the structural foundation of all these ideas, which is linguistics. The model for all this structuralist thinking comes from an incredibly important figure named Ferdinand de Saussure. So the crucial point is that Saussure's linguistics doesn't focus on the individual, everyday things people actually say out loud. Instead, he focuses strictly on the underlying rules, the grammar, and the conventions that enable language to operate in the first place. He's analyzing the social collective dimensions of language. It's the shared infrastructure common to all speakers, which, again, operates completely on an unconscious level.
And this brings us to the core binary of structuralism, Lang versus parole. Now, Lang is the system of language itself. Think of this as the complete underlying rulebook, the grammar, that unconscious infrastructure we just talked about. Parole, on the other hand, is the actual speech. It's the surface phenomena, your individual everyday expressions. To use our earlier analogy, Lang is the entire fashion system with all of its unspoken rules, and parole is the specific daily outfit you decided to pull out of your closet this morning. Structuralists care way more about the complete rulebook, the Lang, than they do about the parole.
Let's see how this builds into another really vital comparison. Saussurean structuralism focuses strictly on the synchronic rather than the diachronic. What does that mean? Well, synchronic simply means looking at the system and the rules that exist right now, at this exact moment in time. Diachronic means looking at historical change, how those rules evolved over decades or centuries. So structuralism isn't really interested in the historical evolution of how the rules came to be. It strictly focuses on the deep, existing infrastructure operating all around us right now.
Moving right along to Section 3, the illusion of choice.
Okay, we are going to execute a bit of a conceptual pivot here. We're moving from fun fashion rules into a much more provocative, almost anti-humanist realization about human free will. By valuing deep structure over surface phenomena, structuralism aligns itself with a widespread modern movement of post-humanism. It strongly resembles academic frameworks like Marxism and psychoanalysis. Why? Because all of these frameworks shift attention totally away from individual human consciousness. They don't look at your personal choices. They look at the underlying causes, the complex systems, and the transpersonal forces that act upon you.
Just consider the weight of this incredibly powerful statement for a second. Individuals neither originate nor control the conventions of their social existence, mental life, or mother tongue. Wow, think about that. We don't invent the rule books we live by. You didn't invent English grammar, and you definitely didn't invent the rule that sneakers don't go with a tuxedo. You simply inherited them. Structuralism argues that we don't actually construct society. Society and its cultural systems actually construct us.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it fundamentally redefines who we are. In critical theory, we actually stop using words like person or individual. Instead, we use the term the subject. The individual is completely decentered. Under this theory, you are not a completely free, conscious originator of your thoughts and actions. You are a subject within impersonal social and cultural systems. You are a construct. It is a massive, radical shift in how we view the human experience.
And finally, Section 4, Decoding the Literature System.
So let's bridge all these daily habits and linguistic concepts back to your core focus as literature students. Because if fashion and language are systems governed by hidden rules, well then books are just another system. Reading isn't just magic. It isn't just a purely emotional, unexplainable connection between a genius author and a reader. It is a learned code. Literary semiotics views literature as a system of conventions. Fields like structuralist poetics and narratology aim to chart and inventory these not quite explicit rules of reading that sophisticated authors and readers share.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the theory perfectly maps onto your literary structures. Just like the fashion system has underlying elements like clothes and colors, which are combined using the rules of dress codes, the literature system works the exact same way. The underlying elements are basic plots and character types. Structuralists argue that most stories can actually be reduced to just a few underlying plots, and most characters are just variations on a few classic types. And how do authors combine them? Through genre rules. Just like language, literature is a system of conventions, and it's most noticeable when you look at the strict, expected rules of different literary genres. So, we've covered the hidden rules of your daily outfits, the grammar of spoken language, and the underlying codes of novels, but I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder for your next seminar. If impersonal systems construct your subjectivity, and if underlying rules dictate the plots and characters of the books you read, who is really telling the story? Is it the author, or is it the system itself speaking through them? Keep that question in the back of your mind as you explore further into literary theory. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.